All right. Good evening. The June 4th, 2025 meeting of the City Council will now come to order. Winnie, may we have roll call, please?
Jessica Ayers.
Here.
Nick Card.
Here.
Kevin Keating.
Here.
Mike Kurlinger.
Here.
John Quinn.
Here.
Zach Smith. Kevin Stein.
Here.
And Garrett West.
Here.
We have 7 present.
All right. I believe that is a quorum. City Manager report, Mr. Field?
There you go. Is that working for you now?
Not yet. Where's the button? Still not working? Dead battery?
I'm not sure why it's not working, but the arrow keys work.
Okay, fair enough. Good evening, Mayor and Council, Rob Field, City Manager. Want to thank our city attorney / IT guy for helping get this queued up for us. Quick report, we do have a fairly heavy duty agenda this evening, but there are still an awful lot of things going on around Medford. So starting with a water tour. The Assistant City Manager, Debbie Grady, and I went on a tour that was led by Brad Taylor of their supply side. And it's a pretty impressive tour. I'm going to suggest that perhaps that those on council who would like to avail themselves of that opportunity do so. It's reassuring, I think, to know how robust and sort of cleverly designed our system is. So for those who would like to take advantage of that opportunity, I've already spoken with Brad and might want to do it. One of the things that I think that came out of this was the fact that we drink spring water. You know, people pay, like that water that's on my table there, a lot of money for spring water. Well, we're drinking spring water here 6 months out of the year. It's disinfected, but beyond that, it's the same as the stuff that we pay a lot of money for. So one of the things I suggested that to water that they maybe ought to let people know about. Sewer system improvements, we have a lot of work being done on our sewer system. I asked John Weil to compile a quick list of the projects that are going on right now. You can see them here in red. So we are increasing our sewer capacity, and it is going to enhance the ability to develop certain projects in certain areas of the city. Public Works Day at Howard Elementary. Public Works has now visited every elementary school in Medford School District. The signing and striping team did a sign for the school, which is very thoughtful. So really a great way of reaching out to the public and letting them know what it is that different departments or what Public Works does for everybody in the city. We have a new mural in downtown in Theater Alley by local artist Ryan Moon. That represents a partnership between the Rogue Valley Art Association and our own Parks, Recreation, and Facilities Department. After, I don't know how long, 25, 30 years, the fountain at Alba Park is working again. This was funded by the council through CCIF, and it's a symbol of the friendship between Alba and the city of Medford. Recreation season is here. The splash pads are open. Concerts in the park have started. The Solstice Run and Movies in the Park are all in well, as it says, in full swing. Things are moving very rapidly as we go into this open season. And by the way, we're also quite busy at Lithia and Driveway Fields. Station 15, our biggest capital improvement at least on the surface right now, is progressing well. As you can see, the foundation has been poured, and we are for the temporary apparatus bay, which is the first phase of the project. It gives us the ability to keep the station in operation in a temporary facility, which will be converted into a storage facility later. Then we can progress to demolition and replacement of the existing fire station. Engine 13. This is funded for us by the Rural Fire District. Another symbol of the great partnership that the city has entered into over time. So the Rural Fire District is paying for this new engine, which is starting to actually look like a fire engine. The first couple of pictures, or first couple of reports didn't quite look like this, but is making rapid progress. Upcoming June 13 and 14 at Fichtner Mainwaring Park, the Medford Cruise, 40th anniversary. The downtown cruise is going to be on June 14th at 5 o'clock. Prior to that, though, there will be a show and shine that morning at 11 a.m. So we have a couple of upcoming topics for discussion, one of which is the medical school study that we commissioned using CCIF last year. It is nearing completion, and we are going to start, we're going to have a round of evaluations of the study, and look forward to sharing that with you. Well, and we look forward to seeing it ourselves. The draft will not be released until this Friday. And finally, legislative session is coming to an end, both, especially in Salem. Doesn't seem like it ever ends in Washington, D.C. But anyway, Salem will be wrapping up here soon, and we'll be getting a report from Cindy Robert, of course, as soon as that is done. And with that, thank you for the time.
Great. Any questions? Seeing none, we will move on to community group reports, and we are starting off with Children's Museum of Southern Oregon.
And this clicker should work.
Okay, great. Hi, thank you. My name is Sunny Spicer. I'm the Executive Director of Oregon Center for Creative Learning, and we operate the Children's Museum and the Ivy School Preschool. I've prepared a few slides for you tonight that give some basic data on our program, but really it doesn't give you the full scope of what this grant how this grant has impacted the families in our community. So here in our community, we are still a child care desert. And what that means is fewer than a third of the kids in our community have access to a traditional preschool experience. For us locally, 77% of the children here in Medford do not have access to those quality early learning experiences that are so important for their future. So investments in early learning are transformative. They're an investment that empowers our youngest learners, supports working families, enriches the cultural fabric of Medford. So this grant is more than just a financial contribution. It's a commitment to the future of our children and the well-being of our community. So during the first 6 months of our project, just under 500 families received financial assistance for their membership. Extrapolated out for the year, that's 20% of our membership base, and that's just for those here in Medford. All the families who participate would otherwise not have the resources to come to our museum. That membership gives them access to many of our arts and cultural programs, community events like our Heroes Day that we did in collaboration with MPD, MFD, the Public Works. Everybody loves a big truck. So they can attend our long list of instructed drop-in early learning programs that happen every day. And what that does is it effectively gives families that preschool experience without the drop-in or without the child care component. It helps children and their parents connect with others. It builds relationships and sets a foundation for learning. The museum is where many children begin to learn about the world around them and how they're going to fit in a community. 22 families received partial scholarships for preschool. These were families that don't qualify for public preschool resources or can't access them because of capacity issues. They would not be able to attend without these resources. And what childcare does for a family, it can be the difference between family stability, housing, access to employment. Just that child care piece is the big step that families need. It strengthens the economic stability of our entire community. So I sincerely appreciate your support for this program. It's been clearly more than a financial contribution. It's an investment in our collective future. It's a promise that every child, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to explore, learn, play, and succeed. You don't have to take just my word for it. I have included a few testimonials from parents. I can supply endless others should you want them. There's a lot of appreciation for the ability to attend these programs, but what I want to do is direct your attention to the little girl at the corner. She came to us early, I think she was age 3, when she first started preschool. By age 4, she had experienced more than any of us can probably imagine. She had been removed from her birth parents. She had gone through multiple foster placements. The only thing stable in her world were her preschool teachers and her preschool, her friends, the people around her. And so without having access to scholarship funds, we can't provide that resource to kids that absolutely need it the most. So again, thank you for the ability to do this work. And look at the thanks from parents as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Any questions? Yeah. Or a remark?
I was late because I was actually across the street at
Oh, you're at graduation?
my son,
Okay,
yeah.
good job.
So I made it just in time to tell you thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's crowded out there, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Next up, we have Rogue Rapids Swim Club update.
Sorry, it's gonna be, with the Zoom going, it could be a little finicky. Do you have a PowerPoint or?
I do. It should be down just a bit. There we go.
When Zoom's going, it's finicky.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm Dr. Laurel Naverson-Garrity. I'm a dermatologist at Dermatology and Laser Associates of Medford and Vice President of the Rogue Rapids Swim Team. So to take a step back, why start a swim team here in Jackson County and in Medford? We have not had a competition-coded pool here in Medford in order to have safe dives allowed for over 10 years since the closing of the SOU pool. So when it came about that the Rogue X facility was going to be built, my family and friends came together to create a nonprofit to start a new swim team here in Southern Oregon. Historically, options for swim team here in the area have been extremely limited, and so we wanted to extend those opportunities to other kids. The sport has impacted my life very positively, where I had a chance to compete at the state, the regional, the national level, and go on to swim NCAA Division I for Brown University, where I was all Ivy League. So there's so many benefits for kids to get involved with swim team and other sports. Everything from exercise, water safety, reduced screen time, better sleep. They're making friends, they're having fun, and they're getting healthy at the same time. Here's the Rogue Rapids mission statement. And our team update, with the opening of the Rogue X facility, we started with 50 swimmers after our team tryouts on the first day. We more than doubled our numbers pretty quickly. We currently have 103 steady swimmers on the team, and during our peak during the fall and winter season, which is the primary swim season, we capped out at 130. So there's been a tremendous amount of interest just in our first year and a half. And our swimmers are performing really well. You give the kids some good coaching and a chance to swim, and they're representing our community and our state on the state and regional and even national level. So we have swimmers who are state champions, regional champions. Those are 11 different states and hundreds of kids who are the best in the region coming together, and 4 of our swimmers have already been champions. We have junior nationals qualifiers, and 3 of our swimmers are already ranked top 100 in the United States. So on to the scholarships. The CCIF and the City Council very graciously contributed $10,000 to help support our scholarships. Our scholarships are named for Sophia Marks, who was a young woman who died right around the age of 18 from an aggressive sarcoma. She was a North Medford student and fantastic student and a swimmer. As she was going through chemotherapy and even having her leg amputated, swimming gave her a safe space to feel good, be with her friends, and have a positive experience. So in her honor, the Sophia Marks Scholarships, we do have application forms in English and Spanish. Any applying kid with OHP or Jackson Care Connect automatically qualifies with a completed application, but all applicants are considered. So some situations are based on the family circumstance, and we're able to award scholarships to deserving swimmers, not based on OHP status or not. So initially, we offered a 50% reduction on our monthly swim team dues with the scholarships. We realized a price point of about $50 a month was still pricing out many, many families. So we lowered that more to a 75% reduction. So kids are able to get 20 hours of swim team practice a month or more for $24.75 per month. So you can't even get babysitting for $1 an hour. So this is really good rates, and kids are coming home tired and hungry and healthier and sleeping better in a better mood. Our scholarship fund also allows us to waive the swim team initiation fee, pay for their annual swim team membership through USA Swimming, which is a requirement of all USA Swimming clubs. And we realized at one point last summer, oh no, our scholarship swimmers are not coming to any meets. Why is that? When we instituted a $100 a day stipend for kids to travel to away meets further than Grants Pass, all of a sudden all of our scholarship swimmers were going to meets. So just that $100 a day to help offset costs made a huge difference to our swimmers. So as of last August, we had just 2 scholarship swimmers on our team of about 100. Currently, we have 12. We actually have one who was added on even in the last week since I made this PowerPoint. A few kids have dropped off the team. Some were granted a scholarship but never ended up joining. And the only person who was denied said, oh, I just said I thought I had to fill out this form. I don't actually need the scholarship. So we've had some amazing stories with our scholarship swimmers on the team. One 11-year-old swimmer has been with us from the very start. She loves it. At our annual swimathon fundraiser last month, kids can swim up to 200 lengths or for 2 hours, whichever comes first. She would not stop. She swam the entire 2 hours, and the entire team was cheering for her by the end. We have 2 siblings on the team, and their younger brother's going through chemotherapy. And their family said, hey, we wouldn't usually ask for scholarship funding, but we're having a lot of expenses going to OHSU, paying for healthcare and travel. So, and the swim team scholarship allowed them to continue with a sport that they love and provide some normalcy in their lives. We have a number of autistic kids on the team. One of them is on scholarship. She doesn't communicate very well, but the water is her happy place. She shows up every day with a smile on her face, and she has the highest attendance rate in her group. We've had a parent come to us saying, hey, I can't afford lessons, but I can't afford this $24 a month. So even though this swimmer wasn't quite ready for swim team, we worked with her one-on-one to get her up to speed, and she's improving every day. She's wearing her team t-shirt to school. She's very proud to be a Rogue Rapids swimmer. And then we have a very talented 7-year-old who is just doing so well in the pool. We're really excited to see her race at her first meet in Eugene later this month. So in 2024, we awarded $2,700 in scholarship funds. This year, the first 5 months of the year, we've already spent more than that on scholarship funds. Our projected total before that 12th swimmer for this year was over $7,000. If you break it down, however, starting with 12 swimmers, because we keep doing outreach efforts to bring on more and more scholarship swimmers. We want every kid to be able to participate. So for monthly dues alone for 12 scholarship swimmers for the year, the cost to our scholarship fund would be $10,692. And if you add in all the extra USA membership fee, meet stipends, et cetera, the cost is about $19,000 per year for scholarship swimmers if there were 12 total. There are a number of challenges. One of them is we want to bring more meets here to the Rogue Valley. Our first hosted meet was in February of this year. We had 273 swimmers participating from Bend, Corvallis, Eugene, Portland, Crescent City, as well as our own local swimmers. So that was a lot of families coming and spending 2 nights in hotels here in Medford and coming to participate. Based on the success of that meet, we've been invited to apply to host the 10 and under state meet next February, which would bring over 400 swimmers to our valley for those 2 nights. So this is a great opportunity to drive sports tourism to the area. We do have some challenges. We're continuing outreach to get to the kids who would like to be a part of the team but don't know about us just yet. We want to thank you very much for your support. The $10,000 contributed has helped us make a difference in all these kids' lives, and we appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much. Just curious, what ages does your swim club go through to?
Ages 5 and up. So we have some swimmers who are 18, but a lot of them start at age 5.
Great. Kevin?
Yeah, thanks for what you're doing. Is there a problem with young kids not being able to get swimming lessons at an early age? I mean, just as a life-saving thing, I think that'd be something we'd support.
Yeah, and swim lessons lead up to the level of swim team, and we take it from there. So if kids can swim one length of the pool freestyle with their face down, they're ready for swim team. But yes, there's a huge access to swim lessons program, and Oregon's drowning rates are abysmal. If I recall correctly, they're about 4 times higher than California, probably because California has tons of pools at every high school. They're all throughout the state, where we have a very limited number of pools in our area, but we have a lot of lakes and rivers and oceans for kids to swim in, so they can run into trouble with drowning. So access to lessons is critically important. So the Rogue X has been huge in that they are offering lessons. From what I've heard, the Rogue X sells out on their swim lessons very, very rapidly. Like, people have to be sitting there at their computer to sign up the moment they open because they fill up so fast. YMCA and ABK and individual providers also offer lessons. But yes, that is absolutely a huge problem for water safety.
Yeah, Mike.
Wow. That's all. That's awesome.
Thank you. The kids are so cute. They're having fun. Please stop by and visit us any day at the Rogex between 4 and 7.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, Mayor.
Yeah, Kevin.
Sorry. Yeah, and it got answered, but what Mr. Keating said is exactly that. Like I have to write it down in my calendar. That way, that morning when it opens up, you got to go in and get it because it's, as stated, we have not had enough swimming facilities as it is. So there's a lot of backlog, right? A lot of people that might be a little bit older that we would, might be teenagers that just don't know how to swim. And so it's going to take some time before you kind of meet that backlog where, we have more people that are able to swim. One of the things that's really great, because I follow the page, and it's great to see all the progress you have and how all your students are doing. But man, it's going to be amazing the day that happens that, in the near future maybe, in the next few years, when we have kids that have learned to swim at the Rogex, gone through your program, got to the high school level, and then potentially got state champions that happen here. The possibilities are there with the thing that the council community have been able to do with the Rogex and your program. So that day will come. I mean, it's amazing to see what your guys are already doing, literally 1 year into this. But the possibilities are there, and it's really exciting. And thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you very much. And we do want the high school teams to be successful. The fact that we have so many state champions and the high school will have, the local high schools might have up to 70 kids on the team and not one of them goes to state. We want to help them be successful, and without a strong feeder program, it's difficult to do. So we want to help put our local high schools in have them put the best foot forward and get their state championships to go along with ours.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, St. Vincent de Paul. Jay, you look ready.
Good evening. My name is Jay Stockton. In my previous life, I was a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. Now I'm retired, and I'm a volunteer grant writer for St. Vincent de Paul. And I would like to thank the City of Medford for your strong support of St. Vincent de Paul over the years, and we look forward to working with you more in the future. Last year, you awarded us a $40,000 grant from the general fund, and I'm here to tell you how we spent that money. We currently provide up to all the funds were expended between August 2024 and April 2025, and they were done mostly in $500 chunks. Our criteria is that we provide $500 of rent assistance every 24 months. Now, that's not a lot in today's rental market, but we like to think that it makes a big difference because a lot of folks are living paycheck to paycheck. They're doing okay, but then something happens, car repair, medical bills, something like that, and they're short for the month. And that extra $500 can make it possible for them to make the rent payment and stop the domino effect that can ultimately end in a family becoming homeless. And $500 early on is a lot cheaper than rehoming a family after they become homeless. When you talk about temporary housing and feeding them and things like that, you can get into 5 figures shockingly quickly. So that's what we try to do that. To give you an idea of just how great the need is out there, during that August 2024 to April 2025 time frame, we expended $340,000 in rent assistance from all funding sources. And we're not the only agency that does this. So there's a tremendous need out there. Our social services director asked me to make this point with you. We're seeing a lot of seniors who live in trailer parks. And the trailer parks are transitioning from local ownership to corporate ownership. And they own their trailers, but the space rents are going way up. Most of them depend on Social Security. Their Social Security is not keeping pace with the increase of their space rentals. So this is becoming an increasingly urgent problem that we are seeing on the ground at St. Vincent de Paul. There's a demographic breakdown that I gave in the form that you guys have, and I'm only going to talk about one aspect of that, and that is we list 69 homeless parties. It's a quirk in our accounting system. If they were ever homeless, they go down as homeless in our system. But we do help with transition housing. For example, if there's a family that's coming out of homelessness and they've got everything but about $500, we will help them to get them into the housing. Or if we have somebody that came out of rehab that may be going in an entity like Oxford House, we will help with that transition as well. A little bit about us. We are an all-volunteer organization, the Rogue Valley Council. Right now we have about 230 volunteers. We could always use more. None of us are paid, all the way up to the president. And we own all of our buildings and the land they sit on free and clear. And this greatly diminishes our overhead expenses, as you might expect, but doesn't eliminate them. We still have to pay for utilities, we have to maintain all these facilities, we have office expenses, and we have to contract out for some services like on-site security. Most of us are retired seniors like myself, and we do need that on-site security because a small segment of our clientele can be problematic. What this means is that 100% of the income from other sources, such as the grant you gave us, or bequests or donations, 100% of that goes into services. 0% goes into administration. There's not many organizations that can make that claim. It's not a unique business model, but it's unusual, at least even among St. Vincent de Paul organizations throughout the nation. So we're dedicated to serving the less fortunate as effectively and as efficiently as we possibly can. And I invite any members of the Medford City Council or people on the Medford staff that may be interested, but especially Ward 3 Councilman Stein and West, because we're in your ward. Come out and take a tour. I don't think very many people are fully aware of the scope of what we do. In fact, I found out something that we do last Monday, and I've been volunteering for 2.5 years now. And we offer a lot of different services, and I provided a council card for each of the council members, and I don't have a personal card yet, but my name and number is written on the card. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time. Do we have any questions?
I just wanted to comment. I was literally having a conversation, I want to say this week, about how that one medical bill, the $200 or $300 that someone can't cover means they're deciding between groceries, rent, or that bill. Mm-hmm. And that gets them behind 1 month, which the following month they can't catch up on. And that really, really, really small hump can snowball or domino, like you said, so quickly. So $500 once every 2 years, like, yeah, in this market, that's not a ton, but that is literally the difference for homelessness for some people, and
Right.
that's huge, and thank
Right.
you.
You're welcome. Do we have
Other questions? Kevin?
Yeah, I used to work in homeless services, and so I went around St. Vincent de Paul a lot because you guys would provide, I don't know if you still did it, but you had the food, you could do food lunches, and then we could give little coupons so they could go get like one piece of furniture out of the store.
Right.
So it was a tremendous what you guys did. Are you guys using, it says $500, so is that, because the programs always change, so is that down payment assistance? Is that people that coming in with 72-hour notices? Well, where's that money going?
Most of them are 72-hour
72-hour
notices, that
notices.
sort of thing. We see a peak right around the 5th of every month,
Sure.
because that's when the rent is normally due. And one thing I forgot to mention about that thrift store is what pays all our overhead. That's why we could put all the grant money in the services, and I forgot to mention that. But yeah, most of it is we're about to get thrown out of our house situation.
Yeah.
And so we try to plug that gap when we can. And when we do it, we actually contact the landlord or the property manager, and we negotiate directly with them, and the payment goes directly to the landlord or property manager.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Nick.
So this isn't specifically about St. Vincent de Paul, but as a grant writer, I did want to ask this question. There was an opinion piece in the Oregonian not too long ago talking about the crisis of nonprofits in Oregon, specifically the face of how much public dollars came in and around homelessness that we faced and the explosion of nonprofits. And now we're seeing a dramatic reduction in grant dollars, but not necessarily a dramatic reduction in the number of nonprofits and therefore the amount of potential service dollars that are going into administration as all these different nonprofits exist. And so I was curious, from your role as a grant writer, have you seen that contraction in grant availability? Have you seen changes in the way grants are being given out around sort of administration pieces, and how different grant companies or funders are trying to control that? Or is that something that, because of your model, necessarily the St. Vincent de Paul model is very service oriented. So I was just kind of curious if you could talk briefly. I don't want to belabor the question, but.
Well, good question. We have not seen that in the private foundations yet, but FEMA is a mess right now, frankly. Nobody seems to know when and if funding is going to come in. And that's right from local people here, people like Access. They're having trouble figuring out what's going on with that too. And there's a lot of uncertainty at the local all the way up to the federal level. But in the private foundations, for the most part, so far, it appears to be business as usual, if you will. And the Cow Creek Umpqua Indian Foundation just awarded us a grant today, so we're happy about that. And so they're still doing their thing. But FEMA, I don't know how long it's going to take for all that to work itself out. It's a big mystery for us right now.
Great. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Is there another question? Great. Hey, thanks for coming down, and pleasure to get the update.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We also have Rogue Retreat.
Thank you for your patience. Your technology works better than ours. Hi, thank you so much. I'm Sam Engel. I'm with Rogue Retreat. And if you take nothing else away from our presentation, I want you to walk away with our vision, which is we envision a community where everyone has a place to call home. That's also our vision statement, and it's kind of what we hang our hat on. If you're not familiar with Rogue Retreat, we've been around since 1998, which surprises a lot of people. They seem to think that we started about 10 years ago, largely with low barrier programs. We started initially with recovery housing, shared recovery housing, and apartments. We operate several levels of interconnected shelter, outreach, and housing, which I'll talk about in a second. We have about 500 people each day that are in beds and under roofs at Rogue Retreat. Over the course of a year, that's around 1,200 individuals. We hire also mostly people who have lived experience. So we have that direct understanding, that direct compassion at every level of our organization, from street outreach and direct services all the way up to our board. The levels of housing and shelter that we provide start with street outreach, where we hire people who can tell somebody why they made the choice to come into Rogue Retreat and how they made the changes and the steps in their life that they made. Through the urban campground, Kelly Shelter, and then all the way up to unsubsidized apartments. This is just a snapshot on funding and the funding relationship that we've had with the city of Medford in the last couple of years. This is not a complete list, but I wanted to draw attention to a couple of big things. One is the amount of matching funding and leveraged funding that can come in as a result of the generosity and the trust of the city of Medford. In some cases, the funding that's able to come in next is several times the amount of money that the city of Medford has initially given, which is not to diminish the gifts of the city of Medford, because that is tremendous, but it's to show that that investment in the community can leverage a bigger investment either from the state or from other funders. Those dollars are also, especially in the last few years, have gone into construction and capital projects, meaning that we're hiring local contractors, we're hiring local subcontractors, we're purchasing building materials locally. Those dollars are getting respent and reinvested in the community. And then, of course, also our staffing. Challenges. And I don't want to dwell too much on challenges, but to reiterate some of what my colleague just said, it's an unstable environment right now, and a lot of our funding is reimbursement based, and so that means we have to spend the money before we have received the funding from other sources. We don't know exactly what the future holds. Availability and cost of housing is a huge barrier to people who are moving out of Rogue Retreat, and our goal, of course, is to have people move into our program, stabilize, make the changes that they need to and want to make in their life, and then be able to move it beyond our program for long-term sustainability. What we're running into within our program and the scope of services in the Valley is a lack of senior housing, family housing, and then specific housing for folks that have high needs. What's working well? If you haven't been to our sites, or if you haven't been to our sites for a while, the look and feel of our programs is different than it used to be. If you walk into the crossings today versus in 2020 or 2022, it's a very different feeling. And that's largely because of the investment, bless you, the investments through EO 2302 and ARPA. The Kelly Shelter, of course, if you've been to the Navigation Center recently, it has a calming feel when you walk into it, and that's important. Moving more and more towards a trauma-informed environment. It's very difficult to live with 79 of your closest friends and strangers, and so having a safe and comfortable environment to do that is important. I want to talk about workforce development. We've had a huge shift in the last couple of years. We're just over a year with having Hope Streets relaunched, formerly Clean Sweep. We've got a couple of people in that program who have been employed in it since it started. Hope Kitchen has been huge. We're able to not only do catering out into the community through the program, but then offer more nutritious meals in the shelter and to crossings. We're also able to hire guests into that program, both as staff and also as paid interns. The first 3 rounds of that internship that we ran, almost nobody completed it because they were hired into the local restaurant industry before they could complete the program, which was not the type of success we wanted, but absolutely the type of success that we want, that we'd planned on, but that's the type of success we do want. And then we operate a thrift store as well. Something else that's been very helpful is storytelling. More of our guests and residents have been coming forward to share their stories, and we've been putting those out on Facebook and other places. We've had a lot more people coming into our front office self-referring because they've seen those stories, people sharing their own experience, and then coming in to ask our front desk how they can also have part of that story themselves. Our next steps, we want to continue to develop revenue streams. We want to be as self-sufficient as possible moving forwards. A huge piece of that, the Redwood Retreat is the Redwood Inn. That sign went up yesterday. The medical respite program has been a big piece in helping to stabilize the work that we do, and also to help people who are going into the emergency room, into the hospital, safely exit the hospital without having to be in a bed that they don't necessarily need, but they do need a safe place to recover. Kelly Shelter offers part of that service. Redwood Inn offers part of that service. We're opening 2 new havens in 2025. One is with a ARPA gift from the city that is that should be matched by a gift from the county. Those funds are still pending. The havens are fantastic because they allow for that safe recovery, and they're self-sustaining programs. They cover their own costs. And we're hoping to launch a data program with our CCO partners later this year to try and better study the impacts of the work that we have and the way that we're hopefully saving healthcare money at the same time, and then being able to reinvest those dollars back into the community so that somebody else gets to put their head on a pillow tomorrow night. The kitchen. Alan is fantastic. Alan grew up in an unstable home, became homeless at 14 and struggled with addiction and homelessness for 15 years. Came to us a little while ago. He's now been sober for just over 15 months. He started through our internship program. We hired him into the kitchen because we had a job opening. This is his first full-time job, and he's doing great. But one of his concerns when he took the job was how he was going to get to work on time. And so we bought him a bike. so that he could get to work on time, he could feel like he was meeting that obligation, which he is, and he does a great job. But this is the type of story that we're having more and more of, is being able to hire people directly out of shelter in the programs, go through the internship program, get that workforce training, and then be able to come back into the community in a big way that they can be as proud of as we are. And I can stop there, and I'm happy for questions or to offer tours.
Yes, Jessica.
Don't want to highlight any potentially bad numbers, but what's the success rate with people that come straight out of the program and go into the internship? Do they typically make it or not?
I don't have great numbers on the internship program yet. People typically graduate. Usually the people who are coming into the internship program are already engaged in case management, and so they're pretty stable when they come in. What has changed with the lowest barrier programs in the last 2 years, since we moved crossings from Biddle Road out to McAndrews and Western, we've gone from about a 20, maybe 25% success rate to about a 45% success rate of people moving into more stable shelter and housing.
Kevin?
Sorry. I was most interested in when you were speaking about saving ER beds or getting people out of ER beds. Can you explain that program and how much extra need is there? Are you meeting the need for that or not?
So the way that program works is if somebody goes into the emergency department, they aren't necessarily choosing to go into shelter. And then frequently they can't discharge because they have a medical condition that wouldn't allow for safe recovery outside of the hospital. I'm going to say nobody should be homeless. And so all recovery on the street is not safe. However, they don't need to be in a $1,200 a night hospital bed. And so if they can discharge into a $100 a night hotel room, not only do they have a better chance of recovering, there's an open hospital bed for somebody else who has an urgent need as opposed to a recovery need. And those dollars can be better invested into the community rather than expended for an unnecessary stay in a hospital bed.
Great, that makes a ton of sense. I'm just saying, is it meeting the need of the people coming out, or are people still needlessly taking up those ER beds? Are you guys covering that need, or do you need more help?
Right now, we're at about 90% capacity most of the time. And so I'd say that there's room for more medical respite in the community. And that's one of the things I'm hoping to learn from the data study.
Great. Well, I appreciate you coming down and, sharing that information.
Thank you.
And thanks to everybody that presented tonight. We'll move on to oral requests and communications from the audience. We set aside 30 minutes for in-person public comments. Comments are limited to 2 minutes per person or organization as outlined in the agenda. The public may also submit written comments to the council. Winnie, I do believe we have written comments.
Yes, Your Honor. We received written comments from Michael Velazquez regarding concerns related to county and federal social service programs and legislations. The comments were submitted to the mayor, the city council, and appropriate staff. Comments are also available on the city's website. There were no other written comments received for agenda item 40.
All right, thank you. So before hearing public comments, I would like to note the decorum policy for the council chambers. The use of noisemakers or disruptive audience behavior such as applause, cheering, or shouting is not permitted. Decorum violations are time-consuming and disrespectful to the speaker and all attendees. Failure to follow the basic standards of decorum may result in removal from the meeting. And I would also like to emphasize this is the public's opportunity to provide comments to the council, and it is not intended to be a time for question and answers. If you have completed a public comment form, please come to the front of the room when your name is called. The time is 6:46 p.m. Winnie, has anyone completed a public comment form?
Just one, Your Honor, from Nicholas Stanley.
Nicholas?
Hello, my name is Nick, and I'm a harm reduction professional. Overdose response is about breathing. When people are having an overdose, the main issue is their breathing is repressed. That is why the federal agency SAMHSA and every other harm reduction organization trains people to provide rescue breathing. Rescue breathing is not and has not been a part of Medford Police Department's overdose response for at least the last 2 years. There have been instances where your officers have stopped harm reduction professionals and other citizens from providing effective overdose response, sometimes under threat of arrest, and then proceeded to provide overdose response without rescue breaths. I witnessed one of these occasions. When I attempted to discuss this with the officers, they laughed and joked about people still providing rescue breaths as if this was outdated. These officers have claimed to be trained in chest compression overdose response. This is not an isolated incident. There are many witnesses to 2 events that happened over a span of nearly 2 years. The dates of these incidents are 4/28/23 and 3/22/25. Both of these incidents happened on Friday nights under the overpass just south of Main Street. Both of these incidents had more than 5 officers respond to them. At both of these occurrences, many officers reaffirmed that their training is for a compression response and to not provide rescue breaths. At the first instance, we were seeing signs of recovery and increased breathing as a result of our rescue breathing and overdose response efforts. Officers arrived, stopped our efforts under threat of arrest, and provided chest compression-only resuscitation. We watched that person die while pleading for the officers to provide rescue breaths. At the second instance, the person was already breathing when officers showed up, yet they proceeded with chest compressions, possibly causing undue harm to someone experiencing a medical emergency. Can I finish? Yep. Do you know where your officers receive this training? Are they confusing overdose response with cardiac arrest response? How can we make sure that they have the right training and stop them from intervening with well-trained professionals or informed citizens? Any answers to these questions will be greatly appreciated. And I emailed the council these and the notes. The federal agency has pretty strict guidelines on overdose response, so there's a link to that in my notes.
Okay, well, if we have that email, we'll respond to that accordingly, and I appreciate you coming down and sharing that. Anyone here that did not fill out a comment card that wants to speak? Okay, we'll move on to minutes. We all received the draft minutes from the May 21st, 2025 regular meeting. Does anyone have any revisions or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, the minutes will stand as submitted. Agenda item 60 is consent calendar. There are 3 items on the consent calendar tonight. Mr. Minton.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 6.1 is Council Bill 2025-41, an ordinance approving and authorizing execution of a 10-year contract with Axon Enterprise, Inc. in the amount of $2,098,884.71 for a records management system. Item 60.2 is Council Bill 2025-42, an ordinance approving and authorizing execution of a contract with T3 Electrical and Construction, Inc. in the amount of $266,289.82 for the construction of the signal system upgrade fiscal year 2023-2025 project. And 60.3 is Council Bill 2025-43, a resolution setting the public hearing date and initiating vacation proceedings for 3 portions totaling approximately 606 square feet of Yamsey Drive, an unimproved right-of-way within the Cascade Village at Cedar Landing Subdivision, Phase 7A. The subject areas are located in the intersection of the future Yamsey Drive and Mount Thielson Drive and are within the SFR 4/PD, single-family residential, 4 dwelling units per gross acre, planned development overlay zoning district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minton. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar. Mr. Stein?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Second by Mr. Card. Any items to be removed? Kevin?
I wish to remove 60.1, please.
60.1. Any others? Okay. Hold on. Okay. Let's ballot on the current items up for bid.
Kevin Stein,
Yes.
Nick Card,
Yes.
Kevin Keating,
Yes.
John Quinn,
Yes.
Zach Smith,
Yes.
Jessica Ayers,
Yes.
Mike Kurlinger,
Yes.
and Garrett West.
Yes.
We have 8 yes.
All right, it passes. Mr. Keating, do you need information, or do you just want to talk about it, or what do you want to do?
I guess my first question would have been, this is a $2 million for over 10 years, correct? And then is 7 years a standard amount of time that we can expect to,
We have questions.
achieve that? Yeah.
See if I printed this out big enough that I don't have to put on glasses.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Trevor Arnold, Deputy Chief of Police. Happy to answer any of those questions. So Kevin, what was that?
Is 8 years a standard amount of time, that we should expect of longevity for the pass system? I think we put in 2018. And then would we expect this, this 10-year contract, would we need a different system, or can we use it for longer than that?
We anticipate, this is a system that's going to be transitioned to countywide. It's not just the Medford Police Department. So each entity, each of the 9 different law enforcement agencies are pushing these contracts through their governing bodies. I would anticipate that this upcoming system is going to last us much longer than the 8 years that our current system has lasted us. We also anticipated that it was going to last longer than it did when we initiated it. I've been with the police department for 27 years, and I think we've been through 5 different records management systems in that time. I feel pretty confident about this one. We have been Axon customers since 2016, when we were one of the first agencies in the state to adopt a body camera program using Axon products. It's been a very quality product. We use it for many things, including our fleet cameras. So there's a lot of digital video evidence that's used through Axon that is going to integrate seamlessly with this new records management system, rather than trying to piecemeal that digital evidence with our current records management system.
So it's mostly the body cam integration with the current records management system?
There's a lot to this system. It's more than that, but one of the big benefits of it in working with the courts, with the city attorney's office, the district attorney's office, is the way that this system is going to integrate evidence all into one package when it gets shipped over, instead of piecemealing and repeated emails and phone calls back and forth about looking for specific body cameras, fleet cameras, et cetera.
If it helps anybody to know, some but not all of my agencies use Axon. Not so much, records management and definitely the audiovisual. And my office uses the same software system as the Jackson County DA. And Axon and Carpel fit together very, very well. If I want to charge, say a felony case rolls in, I get the police report, I want to find out what actually happened. Less than an hour, I can get the body cam and watch the whole thing, and hit transcribe and get a transcript of it. It's pretty cool. It's going to make interagency communication good, and communication with the DA's office good, save employees, speed the ability of law enforcement to say what happened, which is what you do, and do something about it, which is what we do, as far as in court. Much more seamlessly. I use it every day. So in my own practice, in life, I'm happy with it.
Okay. Kevin, did you have an additional
Yeah,
question?
just one last thing. Is this the industry standard that most police departments are using, across Oregon, across the country?
I mean, there's a variety of records management systems available. We've formed a group countywide to evaluate all the different systems and options that were out there, and came to a consensus that this product was the best for our county. There's not a lot of Axon records management system users in Oregon currently, but they are spread throughout the country, and I spent a significant amount of time, once we narrowed down on the Axon product, reaching out and contacting directly agencies who are using this system to get the pluses, the benefits, the consequences, and it got very positive results.
And then I think Mr. Minton might want to fill in.
And just as a quick segue off after Mr. Quinn's point, both the Jackson County DA's office and our office use Carpel for prosecution management, and so that integration he's talking about is not something we have today, but could be something with this new software.
Okay, so if it's, just want to make sure all the questions got answered, we can hit discussion on that in just a sec. So, no other questions? Is there a motion? Mr. Card?
I move to approve Council Bill 2025-41.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Quinn?
Oh, I was just mentioning that I was going to ask two questions that are very quick. Let's say on a basic shift, patrol officer has the normal number of encounters that would generate reports. How much time does he or she now have to spend generating reports versus how much time do you think will get cut off? And then secondly, a point that you didn't emphasize, but you have in prior presentations, is this storage is on the cloud, which radically improves our resiliency should an emergency occur and our own servers go out.
That's correct. So currently, I mean, national standards are that police officers are spending up to 40% of their shift writing reports and doing some of the administrative paperwork. I expect that that's going to be significantly reduced with as free-flowing as this program is going to work. I'm sorry, what was the second part again?
Second question was more of a comment, but thinking of it this way, if you have one full-time employee at the cost of a peace officer and you suddenly get 2 more hours of that person's time, that's a thing.
Absolutely.
That's worth $200,000 a year, I think.
Good. Everyone have enough information? And all right, Wendy, will you call the roll?
Nick Card?
Yes.
John Quinn?
Yes.
Mike Kurlinger?
Yes.
Jessica Ayers?
Yes.
Garrett West?
Yes.
Zach Smith?
Yes.
Kevin Keating?
Yes.
And Kevin Stein.
Yes.
We have 8 yes.
All right, that passes. On to ordinances and resolution. 2 ordinances for consideration tonight, Mr. Minton.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 80.1 is Council Bill 2025-44, an ordinance setting the annual ad valorem property tax levy of the City of Medford for fiscal year 2025-2026.
Thank you very much. Does anyone need a staff report? Just going to throw it out. We did have budget committee meetings. Or do we have a motion? Mr. Stein.
I move to approve Council Bill 2025, TAC 44.
Second.
Mr. Keating, the second? Okay. Discussion, Mr. Stein?
Nope.
Anyone else? Wendy, will you call the roll?
Kevin Stein?
Yes.
Kevin Keating?
Yes.
Mike Kurlinger?
Yes.
John Quinn?
Yes.
Nick Card?
Yes.
Zach Smith?
Yes.
Garrett West?
Yes.
And Jessica Ayers.
Yes.
We have 8 yes.
Thank you. 80.2.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 80.2 is Council Bill 2025-45, an ordinance approving and authorizing execution of a 5-year contract with Traffic Solutions, Inc., doing business as Vera Mobility for photo traffic services.
Thank you. Staff report? Anyone? Or a motion? Mr. Stein.
I move to approve Council Bill 2025, TAC 45.
Second.
And a second from Mr. Card. Discussion either? Mr. Card.
One of the things, we've spent quite a bit of time in various meetings and study sessions talking about the speed cameras and the photo enforcement, and I know it's a polarizing thing, and so I did want to make a comment about that here. One of the things that we always are struggling as council and as a city to balance is the inconvenience on life and also the management of safety and other concerns. One of the reasons why we started a photo enforcement program dating back probably a decade or more at this point was for red light cameras. People running red lights and getting into significant accidents. T-boning accidents cause a lot of fatalities on our roads, and so having that kind of photo enforcement is a proven way to reduce those kinds of incidents. And so as this program has grown and expanded, as things have changed, I know council's been very engaged on this topic, but the thing that I've heard from a lot of council is that core reason for having photo enforcement on these intersections is that's an important piece, and those aren't going away. And so that's part of what this contract is about, is making sure that continues and that important safety feature continues, along with some of the other tools that sort of wrap up in that piece. So that's why I'm supportive.
Mr. Kurlinger?
I don't think a full staff report is necessary, but these are the same cameras. You have to be doing at least more than 10 over to start, or more than 10. So you have to be doing at least 11 over.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Other discussion. Mr. Keating.
Yeah, I do have a question. I mentioned that the Barnett and Hillsdale, I forget, the intersection we're going to is the 5th most reported accident location. Are we hitting 1 through 4 as well? In other words, is the 5th highest for reported crashes at
Barnett and Highland?
Highland, yeah.
Yes, sir. So I'm Rebecca Pietala, lieutenant with the police department.
Right.
And so we will, with this new contract, the staff recommendation is to move Riverside and Stewart to Barnett and Highland. Sorry, yes. That's our recommendation based on the crash ratings and the crash volume at Barnett and Highland, the traffic flow, as well as Barnett and Ellendale. Has a very high crash volume as well.
Sure. So I guess I'm just asking you, the top 5 places for reported crashes in the city of Medford, those all have the cameras?
That's not entirely accurate. It's not exactly the top 5. Obviously, year to year, those can change. And I didn't bring those statistics with me. It is not 1 to 5, the top 5 intersections that are currently patrolled with the photo enforcement, but it is high volume intersections with high crash data.
Okay. And then, I think it said in the report 885,000 is going to Vera, and then Medford is going to reap about 782,000. Is that correct?
We go based on the amount of citations that are fully paid. So this new contract, currently $57.50 goes to Vera Mobility. With the new contract, it'll be $51. So there will be a reduction. I can't provide you with exactly what that figure will be because it's all dependent on how many citations are fully paid. But I can tell you that the cost to Vera is going down with the new contract.
In general, are the number of tickets increasing year over year? Number of tickets given?
Not necessarily, no, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Additional discussion? Winnie, will you call the roll?
Kevin Stein,
Yes.
Nick Card,
Yes.
Mike Kurlinger,
Yes.
John Quinn,
Yes.
Garrett West,
Yes.
Zach Smith,
Yes.
Jessica Ayers,
Yes.
and Kevin Keating.
Yes.
We have 8 yes.
Motion passes. Agenda item 90, public
Mayor.
hearings. Yes.
Mayor. So one of the things that we talked about at one of our, not study sessions, but one of the meetings that Mr. Keating was at, and at our council officers meeting that I'll just point out now, because we saw the numbers of like which intersection, like the tickets, the citations at each of these intersections, and so the talk this afternoon was. Last meeting, we adopted, we gave staff direction to look at speeding or look at the speeds at all the roads in the downtown. And so the kind of compromise was to look at potentially putting those digital signage, feedback signs, maybe in the areas that also have these cameras. But that's all something that, so they're just going to integrate that idea with what they're already doing and then bring that back to us.
I feel like doing public hearings. Let's do it. Let's do 4 public hearings. But before we start with that, I want to remind everyone that the rules of decorum previously outlined are still applicable. By the way, Kevin, that was, I'm sorry that I skipped that, but I was just in gear. So I think that's good that got noted. Violation of the decorum policy may result in your removal from the chambers. This evening we have 4 administrative hearings. If you would like to speak during the hearing, please complete a blue comment form to be called forward. Comments for administrative hearings are limited to 4 minutes per individual, group, or organization. Item 90.1, Mr. Mitten.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 90.1 is Council Bill 2025-34, continued from May 7th, 2025. This is a resolution adopting the 2025 through 2029 Consolidated Plan for the purpose of fulfilling the regulatory requirements of the Community Development Block Grant Program as required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much. May we have staff report?
We do. Good evening. Just 1 second. Presentation up for you. Move all this stuff.
look at you.
Okay. So is it the action plan?
No, it's consolidated plan. Perfect.
Since we've been in the habit of throwing out extra titles, I think Associate IT Director might be appropriate for Mr. Mitten, or?
Very talented. Yes. Good evening, counselors. It's your planning director, Michelle King. Tonight's first item that I'll be presenting is the consolidated plan. This is the 2029 consolidated plan. This plan guides and informs the city's funding decisions. Oh, sorry, I forgot I have to forward here. And the consolidated plan is a HUD requirement. It comes along with us receiving federal funding. It occurs every 5 years. Identifies the community's critical needs for housing, establishes the goals and strategies for the next 5 years, drives the city's funding decisions, and focuses on this, serving the low and moderate income households and vulnerable populations of the city. This year we had a consultant aid in putting together the very in-depth statistics and demographics that the report requires. It's about 250 pages. There's a link. You all received the link. There's also a link for the public on the city's CDBG planning site. And we wanted to really thank the Community Services and Development and Housing Advisory Commissions for their work developing these plans. The city has been an entitlement jurisdiction and receives CDBG funds since 1989. The funding has varied over the course of the years and is based on a formulation from the federal government and relates to population, poverty, and the number of jurisdictions that are receiving funding. This year's allocation is $615,000. The consolidated plan is very formulaic. It's broken up into several sections that are include the executive summary, the process, the needs assessment, housing market analysis, a strategic plan, and this annual goals and objectives. I'm going to walk through some of these briefly. We also have our consultant, Daryl Harrell, online. If you guys have any questions about the demographics and statistics aspect of it and what went into the plan, he's here to answer questions. So the plan identifies priority needs for the city and its future goals, and that includes the improving access to affordable housing, improving infrastructure and public facilities in underserved and low-income areas, enhancing supportive services for vulnerable populations such as seniors and the unhoused, and promoting economic mobility and overall vitality. The process is a very established HUD process. It's a 5-year cycle, so the first 4 segments in this cycle all relate to the con plan preparation. Citizens' participation and consultation is year-round, happens all through the year in various forms, as well as the administration of developing the plan, administering the plan, and administering the grants that go along with the plan. And the CAPER is the final aspect of the plan development. It's where we do our consolidated annual performance and evaluation report, and it's prepared in the fall, so it'll be coming next to you in this cycle. There's a lot of data that goes into this report. This is just a short list, but this is what makes up the decision-making process. And it is, again, a pretty formulaic requirement, and some of this data is at the end of its data cycle. So next year, the next 5 years, you'll see a new set of data that comes through the different courses. So some of the data you'll see in the report is dated 2020, as we're required to use that set of data. There's a lot of public involvement that goes into this. It starts with the community listening sessions, includes community needs assessment, stakeholder interviews, and a 30-day public comment period. As stated, the draft consolidated plan is available online. We did not receive any public comments during the comment process. I will take that back. I did receive an email from Barry Thalen, who is the developer of New Spirit, and he gave us lots of compliments on the plan itself and was very happy with the city's focus on affordable housing. We also did a consolidated plan survey. We received 324 responses.
And we had an analysis of impediments to fair housing choice survey with 166 responses. Those are all included in Appendix A of the plan. So just to highlight, one of the main components of the plan is a needs assessment. The needs assessment data considers 4 key housing problems, and those include the housing cost burden, amount of the percentage of your income that would go to your housing, and if it's over 30% and sometimes over 50%, these can be a very difficult cost burden and result in people ending up homeless. So this is an important aspect of it. Substandard housing, the overcrowding and severe overcrowding, and people who are trying to find housing with zero negative income. The plan identified areas in Medford that had disproportionate needs for affordable housing, including the downtown and West Medford, and also looked at non-housing community development needs that were in need of funding, such as emergency shelters, healthcare clinics, transportation facilities, utilities, and stormwater management. Another important component of the needs assessment is looking at barriers to home ownership, including discriminatory lending practices, credit accessibility issues, and lack of down payment assistance programs tailored to the needs of various income levels. Another significant challenge is the limited availability of culturally specific housing services and housing for people with disabilities and seniors who are experiencing unique housing challenges, particularly in terms of accessibility. Again, the non-housing community development needs that are identified included public facilities and the investment in transportation, utilities, stormwater management, and other essential infrastructure in areas of low income, and public facilities that include multi-purpose spaces for community engagement, job training centers, and accessible recreational amenities. Other pressing needs are, of course, homelessness, seniors, who make up 17% of our population, people with disabilities, people who are suffering from substance abuse, folks that have mental illness that need specific housing, and victims of domestic violence. The other big component of the plan is the housing market analysis, and it's made up of a series of data including types and numbers of units of housing in the city, amount of subsidized housing, the cost of housing, and the age of housing. And some of the main components of this is looking at how the increasing population and rising demand for affordable housing have placed additional pressure on the housing market, and how many lower income households face challenges securing stable housing due to limited availability and rising costs. Also, the composition of Medford's housing stock presents a challenge in meeting the diverse needs of our growing population. So, some of the major barriers to affordable housing include the cost to develop infrastructure, regulatory constraints, land availability, community opposition, and funding limitations. Community opposition to higher density housing and affordable housing development remains a challenge throughout Oregon and many other states, and funding remains a crucial barrier. Affordable housing projects typically require subsidies from federal, state, and local sources to be financially feasible, and some of those funding sources have extra requirements that can make projects more expensive. So, in somewhat of a summary, the consolidated plan and goals strategies that came out of this process focus on housing affordability as the major concern. In Medford, as demand for both rental and homeownership opportunities exceeds supply. Homelessness remains a growing crisis driven by rising housing costs and insufficient shelter and supportive services. Investment in infrastructure and public facilities are crucial for enhancing quality of life, particularly in low-income neighborhoods, and economic development and workforce opportunities play a key role in promoting financial stability and self-sufficiency. Fair housing and access to social services remain essential components to community well-being. So that concludes the presentation. There is certainly a lot of information in the consolidated plan. I'm here for questions or discussions, and then I'm going to hope that you can make a motion to move the approval of the draft 2025-2029 consolidated plan.
All right, thank you. Did you have a question, Mr. Keating? Go ahead.
I don't know if you can go back up there, but you had some squares with about 6 boxes on them, and one of them was discriminatory lending practices you mentioned. I would assume that those are illegal. What are you referring to?
Even though they're illegal, people still suffer from discriminatory lending practices. It is still a barrier to homeownership, and it could be anything from not speaking the language, not having materials in another language, having people who work during hours where regular people who aren't working during those hours be able to meet with lenders. So it can be a lot of different aspects of the lending process. I also have Sheila Giorgetti here, who's the main staff, who I will bring up in case there's a question I can't answer or need help with answering.
Sure, I also just didn't understand the culturally specific housing services and what those refer to.
So it's another language barrier. So if folks are primarily speaking a non-English language and they especially older people, might be disoriented if they live in a community of a shared housing community or another type of shared environment where nobody speaks their language.
So I guess just to follow up on that question, when we look at these four barriers, is that sort of a general barrier?
Yeah.
Or is that something that was identified specific as an issue in Medford?
It's a general barrier across the entire state, and it's identified in Medford as well. It's not the biggest barrier, but it's just one that's recognized.
Yeah. Good.
I think the biggest barrier is affordability.
Sure. Yeah. Mike, then Jessica.
So point of clarification specifically regarding the lending practices, these responses here are based on surveys that were completed and returns to us. There's not statistical data indicating the number of instances of predatory or biased
we
lending.
We don't have any.
People responded anecdotally.
Yes.
They have experienced or think this may be an issue.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, mine was kind of similar, and just how are we planning on addressing that?
Well, working with lenders to ask that they provide materials in more than one language, asking with lenders to do more outreach in communities that they may not be available to normally,
Yeah.
could be part of it.
I mean, I get that, but Kevin's right in that's already illegal, you know?
Yeah. No,
So-
yeah. I mean, I think the purpose of the plan is to identify these things. It's not for the city to take charge of every aspect of lending and housing. It's just to recognize some of the issues that people have in getting into for sale housing. Sheila, you can come up and add anything else.
Hi, I'm Sheila Giorgetti. I just want to add to that, we can also do education efforts to our subrecipients and to our community partners.
Okay. Other questions? Is our consultant available to answer a question?
We do have Daryl Stamps on the line
So-
to answer any questions.
Daryl, thanks for joining us. Specific kind of to the demographics and the research that you do putting together these plans and in multiple communities, what, if anything, stuck out to you about Medford versus other communities that you do as far as higher risks or higher strengths?
Yeah, well, let me start by saying that Medford is a incredibly participatory city. The number of surveys and the folks that showed up at meetings was higher than what we're used to seeing. So kudos for the city, definitely, and the citizens in that respect. I didn't see anything different, to be honest with you. We have done over 100 different consolidated plans over a 30-year period, and affordability, housing affordability continues to be not only a challenge in Medford, but obviously across the country. Homelessness is again a challenge, definitely in Medford, but no different than any other jurisdiction across the country. We are seeing the West, Washington, Oregon, California having a rise that's pretty concerning, though, in terms of percentage of homelessness over a period of time. But other than that, didn't really see any. You guys are a really good community. If I can kind of be very simple about it, but yeah, really no big concerns that you guys should be really concerned with, other than housing affordability. that was on every survey taker's concern, I guess, their own concerns, anecdotal concerns. So, yeah, housing affordability is something that should be really looked at and addressed.
Well, thank you. Other
You bet.
questions or motion?
Hang on. This.
Oh, shit. Oh, shoot. Let's just move.
Can I add one? Can I add one footnote before you make the motion?
Of course.
Many of you have heard or know that the city is working with HUD to accept home funds. Those funds, the allocation and letter that the city could be a participating jurisdiction didn't come before the consolidated plan was drafted. So you will see an amendment to this consolidated plan towards the end of the summer or early fall that'll include those home funds.
Great. Did you have another question?
I had a motion, if you wanted.
Nope. Come to find out, I don't know what I'm doing up here. Surprise. Okay. Seeing no other further questions, at this point, I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on the subject, please come forward as called. Please identify yourself for the record before speaking. Nobody wants to testify after all that? No, all right. Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kerlinger. Any discussion? Any comments supporting? Winnie, will you call the roll?
Kevin Keating,
Yes.
Mike Kerlinger,
Yes.
John Quinn,
Yes.
Kevin Stein,
Yes.
Nick Card,
Yes.
Jessica Ayers,
Yes.
Zach Smith,
Yes.
and Garrett West.
Yes.
We have 8 yes.
All right, that passes. Well done. In spite of the leadership up here, yeah. 90.2?
Thank you, Your Honor. 90.2 is Council Bill 2025-46, a resolution adopting the 2025 through 2026 action plan for the purpose of fulfilling the regulatory requirements of the Community Development Block Grant Program as required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Sorry, we need our IT help again.
We need,
I need my help.
tell us more about the Children's Museum.
It's going to be down low again.
Action plan.
Action plan.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, so as we just discussed the 5-year plan, every year there's a CDBG action plan. So we're gonna just do both tonight. And this is the 2025-2026 action plan. It's also the last section of the consolidated plan and part of the annual goals and objectives. The annual action plan is the details of the CDBG funding award and projects for the coming year. What the action plan includes are the expected resources for the year, financial resources, the housing-related funding recommendations, the public facilities and improvement recommendations, which are 2 separate sections or part of the funding package, and the public services funding recommendations. It also outlines the amount of funds that can be spent on administrative and planning activities. So here's the expected resources for 2025-2026. There's the $615,563 we noted previously. There's a $75,000 that returned as program income. That's money that the city gets back from previous programs to rehabilitate homes or homebuyer assistance, and those homes have sold, and $80,000 from prior year resources that were returned, most likely because the grantee wasn't able to use the funding. CDBG has specific percentages that are allocated for what the city can allow to be spent from these funds, types of projects that the funds can be allocated to. So it's for capital improvement projects at 65% of the funding source, public service programs is 15%, and the program administrative and planning, which is the staffing, is 20%. This gives you a timeline of the competitive selection process for these funds, started in December of last year. They went through staff review, the CSDC review and evaluation. There were in-person presentations by the applicants, a scoring process, and then a funding recommendation. For projects that were housing related, they also were reviewed by the HAC, the Housing Advisory Commission. So the first group, the capital improvement projects, these are the housing related. It's a little bit confusing because they're called capital improvement, but they're categorized in that way as far as how much money could be spent. These are actually housing related projects. These were the applicants that were scored and deemed as recipients for the upcoming year. Some of them are here in the audience, which is very nice. For public facilities, there was the public facility project that was awarded was for the Jackson Park Aquatic Building renovation. And public service programs that were recommended to be awardees include 4 projects varying from homeless services to housing stability and resilience programs at the Center for Nonprofit and Legal Services and medical outreach from La Clinica, as well as the Salvation Army. So the program and administrative and planning funds, 20%, and that money is spent on staff to maintain compliance, to support the subrecipients, to training, to letting them know what monitoring is required and how they can use the funding, to foster growth, promote the fair housing choices, we talked about that a little bit earlier, and remove barriers to the development of affordable housing. The scoring criteria, as these are the components of the scoring criteria, they were ranked as far as program need, how many people they could serve or households they could serve, program effectiveness, how the money was being spent, the agency effectiveness, sort of a history of the agency, if they've been somebody who's experienced and has known how to use the grant money in the past and been successful, and then other objective scoring, including how the presentations were received. So I'm here for questions and discussion. If anybody had any questions about the process for the action plan, and that's the motion if you're interested in making a motion.
Any questions? Mr. Quinn?
So 123,000 for program administration. I get the tasks, but where does that money actually go?
It goes to the salaries of the staff, the HCD staff that are working on monitoring and managing the process. 3 full-time staff people work the grant process all year and monitor the subrecipients. So when you have that many subrecipients, we receive those reimbursement requests for every single dollar that they get. We have to verify that they spend those dollars in a way that is compliant with HUD and CDBG. It's a lot of administrative work.
So what is HCD? Are they?
Is our Housing and Community Development Division is 3 staff members in the planning department who manages this.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Other questions? All right, thank you. At this point, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone fill out a card? No. Just in case. Does anybody want to come down and testify? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion. Yes.
I move to approve the draft 2025-2026 action plan for submission to HUD.
Second. And second from Mr. West. Any discussion? Winnie, will you call the roll?
Jessica Ayers?
Yes.
Garrett West?
Yes.
Kevin Stein?
Yes.
John Quinn?
Yes.
Zach Smith?
Yes.
Nick Card?
Yes.
Kevin Keating?
Yes.
And Mike Curlinger.
Yes.
We have 8 yes.
All right, motion passes 90.3.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 90.3 is Council Bill 2025-47, a resolution certifying that the City of Medford is eligible to receive state shared revenues and elects to receive state shared revenues for fiscal year 2025 through 2026.
Go. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ryan Martin, your Chief Financial Officer, Treasurer, whatever else you want to call me. Tonight we'll be discussing the, I left Budget Committee on there. Well, you are part of the Budget Committee, so there we go. Makes sense. Tonight we'll be discussing state revenue sharing and also the budget adoption right after this. So Oregon had a great role model, Learn to Share, so they do share some of their revenues with us, specifically alcohol tax, cigarette tax, some of the lottery tax dollars, marijuana and gas taxes, et cetera. There are certain requirements that we have and that we have to meet to be able to be eligible for receiving state shared revenues. Have to provide certain sort of services, which we provide adequately all of those services. We also have to have a public hearing at the Budget Committee level and also the City Council level. And then we have to elect each year to actually receive the monies. So here are just compared to this biennium and next biennium for what the city has received and anticipated to receive for the state shared revenues. As I mentioned, they learn to share, but they also, where they share, they can also take away. So where we look at some of the funding, so for example, the alcoholic beverage tax is decreasing slightly due to funding for the OLCC facility. Also, Measure 110 took 75% of the state marijuana tax allocation that the city received and moved it into other services, so that did decline as well. That's all for that. We're ready for a public hearing.
Any questions? I got
tell me what the
Curlinger.
gain-
Well, I got Keating first now. Yeah. Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Kevin. Go ahead.
What is the gain share program? I wasn't quite clear on that.
Oh gosh, the gain share. That's a great question. It's what? Oh. You know, that's the one probably on there that I am not aware of. I would have to look into that.
Mr. Curlinger?
The CCIF is funded by the marijuana tax, right?
Yes.
Did we purposely label that 420? Because I
Yes.
appreciated that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, my accounting staff was very angry with me because we have specific numbers for different funds. So like all the 500s are public works funds, 400 is actually building safety, but had to do it.
Other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you. I will open the public hearing. Anybody? Anybody? I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion. Mr. Stein?
I move to approve Council Bill 2025, TAC 47.
Second.
Second by Mr. Curlinger. Discussion? Winnie, will you call the roll, please?
Kevin Stein,
Yes.
Mike Curlinger,
Yes.
John Quinn,
Yes.
Jessica Ayers,
Yes.
Nick Card,
Yes.
Kevin Keating,
Yes.
Zach Smith,
Yes.
and Garrett West.
Yes.
We have 8 yes.
All right, that is, that passes. 90.4, Mr. Minton.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 90.4 is Council Bill 2025-48, a resolution adopting the budget for the City of Medford for the biennium commencing July 1st, 2025, and ending on June 30th, 2027, and making appropriations thereunder.
All right, still Ryan Martin here. As if the Saturday we all spent together was not enough, we now have the budget adoption. So the culmination of this process, thanks for all the support to everybody in this room, including the elected officials and the staff. This was a 7-month process, takes a very long time, a lot of hours, but I feel like it went very well. So real quick, Oregon budget law governs the budget process. We have ORSs 294, 305, luckily not 294, 040, which I think is OJEC laws. It has 3 budget steps. So we are at the final step, the adopted budget after the proposed and the approved versions. After the budget, council can still make changes. Like you'll see at the next council meeting, typically every 6 months we bring forward a supplemental budget to record revenues that we didn't anticipate or to move money around where needed. The overall goal of the budget process is to link the allocations to the anticipated council goals. It's anticipated because we're working on these simultaneously, and we do the best through our budget process to link them to the council goals. And then also just having the council goals linked to the performance measures, which link to the funding as well. There are some notable assumptions and changes. So we have 4 new funds. We have the fire Construction fund for the new fire station. Number 2 is sewer revenue bond debt service fund, and then a couple of other sewer funds as well for the new tiny little project we have at the wastewater treatment plant. We also have various revenue assumptions. So property taxes we're looking at will likely increase by 4%. Franchise fees, larger, those are for the use that utility companies pay the city for the use of the right-of-ways. That's looking at increasing by about 18% due to large increases in the Pacific Power power bills, which then increase the amount of revenue that the city receives. Utility fees, 1.2% is our typical annual growth. And then state shared revenues, the decrease, as I mentioned, for a couple of reasons. Marijuana tax money is decreasing, not just due to the Measure 110 that happened several years ago, but also just because the tax amount is being reduced as well, or is declining, I should say. And then also the OLCC amount. These are just a quick look at our largest revenue streams in the general fund. Property taxes, as I mentioned, increasing, franchise fees, and then state share revenues declining slightly. Gas tax revenue is looking like it's going to increase this biennium, which is great. Tourism revenues went up pretty drastically after the first couple years of the pandemic, and then has declined a little bit. We anticipate that's going to slightly decline as well this upcoming biennium. Our expense assumptions, personnel, are based on what we actually know at this time, looking at the full cost of every single position, including salaries and benefits. And then our materials and services are based on requests and justifications from departments. And then our capital is based on projects that are part of an approved plan or have been authorized, such as like vehicle purchases or mowers for our parks. Our debt assumptions are based on our actual debt. We know what our principal and interest is going to be for the entirety of the debt, but also sometimes we have new debt, like for the fire station or for the wastewater treatment plant. And so those are changed via supplemental budget by the city council. Looking at our personnel services, this is one of the slides that makes me cry every time I look at it, but we have a pretty large increase in personnel services. So all the salaries and benefits associated with the positions for from the current biennium to the next, and the previous two as well. The large increase in materials and services capital outlay, capital improvement projects, is because of the wastewater treatment plant. We're looking at issuing likely about $200 million of bonds and loans in this upcoming biennium for the funding of that mandated project. And with that, ready for a public hearing.
Any questions? One question is 2 or 3 slides back in regards to labor, personnel services. You were going the wrong. At any rate, personnel services, basically the labor expenses going up, looks like considerably more than like wage. So do you have a little, can you provide a little background on that, specific maybe to PERS obligation or what's driving that?
Yeah, most of it is PERS and healthcare. So the PERS increases at a much faster rate, I should say, than just the salaries. So typically every 2 years, which is when our PERS rates, we get new PERS rates, we're typically seeing 20 to 25% increases in PERS. In healthcare, we're seeing between 10 and 12% per year. So those are the drastic increases that are affecting the personnel services.
Any other questions?
Before you open the public hearing, there's a Dodge Ram in the parking lot. That's car alarm keeps going off.
Well, I wanted to know this question. If anyone has a Dodge Ram in the parking lot, it's going off. That's a public announcement.
Public safety announcement.
Public safety announcement. If anyone here has a Dodge Ram, you might want to go check on it. Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll go to public hearing. Public hearing is now open. How many people do we have lined up, Winnie?
I see Trevor coming down.
Trevor.
Oh, you're going the wrong way.
All right, last chance for the crowd. Public hearing is closed. I will entertain a motion. Mr. Stein.
I move to approve the proposed budget in the amount of $679,486,400, the details of which are by program, by fund, and is contained in the budget document approved by the Budget Committee.
Second.
Second by Jessica. Any discussion? Okay. Winnie, call the roll, please.
Kevin Stein,
Yes.
Jessica Ayers,
Yes.
Nick Card,
Yes.
John Quinn,
Yes.
Garrett West,
Yes.
Zach Smith,
Yes.
Kevin Keating,
Yes.
and Mike Kurlinger.
Yes.
We have 8 yes.
All right. Motion passes. Moving on to council business. There are 2 proclamations tonight. The first one is Immigration Heritage Month, and I will read that here.
Hey, you brought your glasses?
I brought my glasses this time. Whereas generations of immigrants from every corner of the globe have built our country's economy and created the unique character of our nation, and whereas immigrants continue to grow businesses, innovate, strengthen our economy, and create American jobs in Medford, and whereas immigrants have provided the United States with unique social and cultural influence, fundamentally enriching the extraordinary character of our nation, and whereas immigrants have been tireless leaders not only in securing their own rights and access to equal opportunity, but also campaigning to create a fair and more just society for all Americans. Whereas despite these countless contributions, the role immigrants have in building and enriching our nation has frequently been overlooked and undervalued throughout history. Now therefore, I, Michael Zarazinski, Mayor of Medford, do hereby proclaim June 25th as Immigrant Heritage Month. My second proclamation is for Juneteenth Celebration Day, which there will be, and I was just looking that up, a celebration of that on the 21st at Pear Blossom Park. I believe it starts at 11 and goes till 7. I'm scheduled to speak at 1 o'clock, and as everyone here will be anxious to be in attendance, I'm sure. Yeah, there we go. So, whereas Juneteenth is a holiday marking the end of slavery in the United States, and whereas when Union Army General Gordon Granger landed at the Texas port city of Galveston in 1865 as the Civil War drew to a close, one of his first actions was to read General Order Number 3, which stated that all slaves are free and that former masters and slaves have absolute equality of personal and property rights. And whereas following his statement, Juneteenth became the Emancipation Day of those long suffering for freedom. And whereas since then is the oldest known celebration commemorating the end of slavery in America, this tradition has remained strong well into the 21st century to recognize the triumph of the human spirit over the cruelty of slavery and to honor the strength, endurance, and faith of African American ancestors. And whereas it is imperative that citizens join together to acknowledge a time in our history that carried on the nation's ideals of equality and democracy and celebrate the joys of liberty and justice for every citizen. Now, therefore, I, Michael Zarazinski, Mayor of Medford, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2025 as Juneteenth Celebration Day. Mr. Council President.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'll begin with council officers update. We had a lengthy council officers meeting. Let's see, the first item on our officers' agenda was related to the speed feedback signs. Councilor Stein's already discussed that. We talked about fire season and EOC activations. As Chief Thompson gave us an update discussing communication channels, and so they're working on what those communication channels are going to be. We expect that in the event of an emergency, council, we will be a hot commodity in terms of people will be reaching out to us to want to know what's going on, and having us sit around as non-technical people in EOC is not going to make a lot of people very happy, plus it's probably going to hamper what they're actually trying to do to save lives. So we want to work on better communication there, and the mayor is going to be working on policy, standard operating procedure, for doing emergency declarations so that is all nice and streamlined as we enter fire season. And part of why that matters too with the emergencies is that unlocks dollars for reimbursements as well as loosens contracting regulations so we can deploy resources to areas hit by whatever that disaster might be. We discussed a proposed change to the Housing Advisory Commission and the Community Services and Development Commission. Planning Director King came to us with an idea for doing a combined commission to take on those responsibilities. We had a bit of a discussion on that. There seemed to be consensus that this sounds like a good idea, and there are ways to do this without kicking people off and not having some giant committee because of the vacancies. So I move to direct staff to bring back a proposal for a combined committee taking on the responsibilities for both HAC and CSDC.
Second.
All righty. We got a motion, we got a second. Any discussion on this council action? All right, we can voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Great. You got your direction, Michelle? Where's Michelle? Oh, there you are. Oh, she left us? Wow. Undo. She doesn't hang out with us. She gets nothing. Declined. Okay, that's taken care of. We had a discussion about Treasurer Wheeler's recent passing and possibly doing a memorial stone for her. Mayor Spiracino, oh my gosh, Mayor Zarazinski and Winnie are going to put together a little bit of a program for why we would want to recognize Treasurer and for her community service, Treasurer Wheeler, and so that'll come back to us at a later date. Carla Palladino, she wanted to make sure that we have seen, she is seeking one-on-one feedback from council to discuss the climate-friendly area. We spent quite a bit of time in a study session talking about this. And so if anyone wants to give Ms. Palladino any kind of direct feedback, she sent us an email, so please keep an eye out for that. Last item on the agenda, we discussed sort of the bills and the legislative process. This is City Manager Field's first legislative cycle with us, and so we just discussed some of the practices that we've had in the past. We now have KJ taking on that role as our government affairs, and so putting together some kind of a legislative bill tracker in the future, probably not for this session since it's so close to the end, but as we go into future sessions to help keep council apprised of all of the things that we are engaged in because it is a busy legislative cycle. That concludes the officer's report. Any committee or commission reports? No committee or commission reports. Wow. It was a great fourth week that we did nothing in, I suppose. Kevin.
Oh, okay. I'll just say that I saw the mayor. I went and watched the mayor speak. Okay, I don't know about the rest of you, but the mayor spoke at the Memorial Day event at was it Memorial Gardens on Memorial Day, and so that was pretty well attended actually. It's the first time this is the first event I know of that's happened at that location, so I'm sure they'll keep going. But it was pretty nice. They had like the people could get the rose and put it down for a loved one that passed. So that was pretty good. That's what I have.
Any other committee or commission reports? All right. Speaking of committee, boards, and commissions, we have some appointments to take care of. We'll go ahead and look at the Active Transportation Commission first. There is a recommendation to appoint Zachary White to the Active Transportation Commission with a partial term beginning immediately and expiring January 31st, 2028. Do I hear a motion or any other comments?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Second. All those in favor signify by, or is there any discussion?
So discussion is clearly he's the only one that interviewed, but seemed really passionate about this and fully qualified for it.
I was at the interview as well. I liked him myself. I think he's good.
Glowing recommendations.
Well, you know.
I was there too.
Yeah.
He did well.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't mean it to be a slight.
We don't need to have a conversation about it. I'm just trying to get, we have a lot to do. Let's go through.
Let's talk about all the people that weren't on those interviews.
Yeah, no kidding.
Ooh.
Uh-huh. Some people work for a living. I'm probably the least qualified person to say that too. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Congratulations, Mr. White. You have been appointed to the Active Transportation Commission. All righty. Next up, we have a partial term vacancy to Katie. There's one partial term vacancy.
Be a great addition to the commission.
Awesome. Any other comments?
Both candidates were pretty excited about I guess, are passionate about the committee and the mission of the committee. One of the things that kind of stood out is it became a little bit unclear if Darren was an actual Medford resident or worked in Medford, and so that was one of the reasons why there was a thought to go. Not that Allison was fully committed and has quite the background for it as well, but Darren was clearly pretty passionate about it and would have been a good addition as well.
All right. Any other comments?
I'm just going to lean into the running joke that this is maybe the fourth or fifth time Quinn and Stein have agreed, and if they both agree on a candidate, they must be a pretty approachable candidate.
Yeah.
Horseshoe theory.
Yeah. With that last comment, anything else? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Congratulations, Ms. Grove. You are appointed to the partial term beginning immediately.
Got one more for you. So this one wasn't printed out, but it's we talked about at the council officers for Housing Advisory Commission. So once again, we only had one applicant, but he works at Access and helping get landlords to put veterans in those housing. So I moved to appoint Zach Fapiano for the at-large term, beginning immediately and ending whenever that at-large term ends.
Second.
All right. We got a motion. We got a second. Any discussion?
He was good.
Yeah.
All righty. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Congratulations, Mr. Papiano. Mr.
Yeah, I asked him, I was like, all right, can you pronounce your name? That way I don't.
Okey-dokes. You'll notice in your packets there is a number of existing vacancies. One of the things that we have been on a mission of is really working on restructuring and simplifying and streamlining our boards and commissions. And so as part of that process, we've been talking quite a bit at officers over the last few months about getting more information about these vacancies. As you can see, we've got quite a few that we need to address one way or another. Either we got to get more people involved, or we need to restructure our committees and commissions to account for the interest in the community. So make sure you make note of that. And with that, that concludes council business.
Okay. And before we get to staff reports, back to the Memorial Day celebration, the folks there at and I forget the name of the place on Arnold Lane, but also on North Phoenix Road, they did a really nice job of putting together something for Memorial Day. So I was delighted to take part in that. Mr. Field, do you have anything else?
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right. Anything else by council for good of the order? All right. Seeing none, we are adjourned. 7:55.
Executive session in the Medford room in when, Mayor? 5 minutes?
Sure.